Harley Quinn Season 3 was back again this week for the penultimate episode of the season entitled Climax at Jazzapajizza. I'm Cave Joel, and this is the video series where I give my thoughts and feelings on the episode that was, while also shouting out any comic book Easter eggs or references I can find. So, with that out of the way, let's get into it, shall we? So then, picking up from last week's cliffhanger, Harley and Ivy had been taken hostage at Wayne Manor. Bruce Wayne planned to use the power of Frank the Plant to resurrect his dead parents. The plan worked, kind of, sort of. His parents are back, only as horrible plant zombies. But it's not just them either, as it quickly becomes apparent Bruce accidentally ended up kickstarting an entire zombie apocalypse style scenario in Gotham City. I do really appreciate from a characterization standpoint they explain that Bruce's reckless actions can be blamed in part by his breakup with Catwoman and the new biopic being made about his father. They all helped in one way or another push him off the deep end. And the episode is filled with multiple different characters all giving him a piece of their minds to absolutely hilarious results. Well, except for Nightwing, that is, who is still trying super hard to be the favorite Bat son. And hey, speaking of the Batman family, once they realize how bad things are getting for Gotham, it's Batgirl who decides to let Harley and the crew go so they can help. A nice touch and a callback to how friendly Barbara and Harley have gotten this season. Though for me personally, the funniest Bat family joke is probably Damian, who shows nothing but teenage indifference to the entire zombie situation. He doesn't even say a word in this episode, and it still might be the funniest Damian bits in the entire show. Now, in classic zombie movie fashion, Dr. Psycho ends up getting bit, or I guess barfed on as the case may be in this episode, showing that even regular people can be turned into plant zombies, and you just know Dr. Psycho would be one of those kinds of guys to hide the fact that he was bitten by a zombie in one of those movies from the rest of the group. I'm also reminded that James Gunn has been a big part of this season, and he actually wrote the big popular remake of Dawn of the Dead. I'm surprised it didn't come up here in the episode. Ivy figures that maybe she can save the day by once again tapping into the power of the green and taking control of the plant zombies to get them to stop, while Harley and the Bats try and save as many citizens as they can from the big yearly jazz festival that is referenced in the title. I must say it's cool to see Ivy finally come into her own as a leader and a plan maker, when in the first couple episodes we saw just how much she struggled with it all. But hey, you know what? Keep that in mind because we will be circling back to this later on. By far though, this penultimate episode was easily the most action-packed of the season so far. It's clear they waited and bided their time so that they could go out with a big zombie fight bang, which they do, complete with Harley actually getting to fly the Batwing during the battle, something that she thinks is super cool until she realizes that it doesn't have any traditional weapons. Showcasing once again, I think that Harley is more interested in superheroics than ever before, but still not fully convinced by the whole thing and all of its many limitations. If I may move around for a little bit too, there's also a pretty involved little C-plot with Bruce and King Shark of all people. Turns out Bruce and Shark have been going through more or less the same feelings of loss and emotional turmoil, and wouldn't you know it, King Shark actually ends up becoming quite the sounding board for Bruce, helping him work through his problems. Ultimately, he knows what he did is wrong, and he did it because he couldn't move past his parents' death, but with Shark's help, maybe he won't spend the next 30 years obsessing over all the bad stuff he did tonight. It's good, and yet another chance for Ron Funches to really flex his acting muscles. Back over with Ivy, we see she's ready to tap into the full force of the green, only for Swamp Thing making a big return in this episode to warn her that that kind of power, if not used for good, can be very dangerous indeed. And well, I mean, I think we all know the famous saying about absolute power and how it corrupts absolutely. Well, sadly, that's exactly what ends up happening with poor Ivy. She can control the zombies and figures that she should use that control to spread her new Eden all over Gotham. She even gets a brand new costume that looks much more like her classic comic getup, complete with the kitten heels and mossy bustier. Am I saying that right? Bustier? Frank even goes so far as to call her a queen, which I thought was a pretty funny reference, as Queen Ivy is actually another type of Ivy, and there was a comic story not that long ago wherein Pamela Isley ended up taking on the moniker of Queen Ivy. Obviously, Harley is horrified by this turn of events, and when Nightwing and Batgirl talk about maybe needing to take Pamela down with a vengeance, Harley knows that she's the only one who can save the woman she loves from herself and from the heroes. Here's the truly funny part though, Ivy has this whole speech prepared about how none of this would have been possible without Harley's help, and that Ivy has finally found the confidence that always eluded her, and now she can make her dream of a perfect world come true. And I mean, wow, how funny is it to think that Ivy's crippling self-doubt was the only thing actually protecting the world from her. I don't think I can stress enough what a truly brilliant piece of writing this moment is. It's this big scene of self-discovery that would normally be the the end point of any other show, but the Harley series takes it and totally turns it on its head. In the end, Harley is only able to get Ivy to see some semblance of reason by turning herself into a plant zombie, which in turn actually ends up bringing the Bane's pasta maker side story to a close, which was something I was really not expecting. Now don't get me wrong though, it's still not the happy ending you might think it is. Sure, Ivy comes to the realization that her love for Harley means more to her than her dream of Eden, and while she does go out of her way to undo the zombie threat, it's made abundantly clear that she's not happy about how any of this ended up turning out as we head into the finale. And so that was Climax at Jazzapajizza, a solid penultimate episode that certainly lived up to its name by dialing the action knob all the way up to 11. They also paid off a number of running gags from the season that I did not see coming, including the return of Mama Macaronis and those expensive cats that Bruce bought for Selena. Also, after several Harley-centric episodes in a row, we finally managed to circle back to Ivy and her own personal character journey. She got so close to getting everything she wanted and everything she thought would fulfill her, but in the end it almost ended up costing her everything she had built with Harley since the show started. I'm sure I'm not the only one who noticed this too, but at the beginning of the season we saw just how different Harley and Ivy were in their supervillainy styles, so I think it's very compelling that right here at the very end we have a Harley who is feeling the pull to a more heroic direction, while Ivy, when giving amazing power, took a big step right back into supervillainy. As an audience member, I felt it gave me a lot to chew on, so much to the point I didn't bother asking, hey, you did a whole zombie-centric episode and you didn't bother to bring back Mr. Freeze or Penguin? Either way, I think the stage is set for a really emotionally impactful finale, and I can't wait for next week so I can talk all about it. But until then, everyone, this has been Cape Joel. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, be sure to follow me on social media. I got Twitter, I got Instagram, I got TikTok now, so you can always stay up to date when a new Harley video is about to drop.